16-hour book. Is that the one?
That would be the one.
That's the one. Okay.
That I'm going to listen to this time.
I'll start then. I'll start tonight. Listen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Maybe I'll be finished by that time. I'd like to sound at least semi-intelligent.
Exactly. These 1 or 2 chapters.
And have something to add. But
thank you.
Clubs
I appreciate that. I appreciate that support. I appreciate it.
Book clubs are a good thing. I am enjoying it. I've never participated in one before this one, and I've gone to some I don't know what you call it when you just get a group together and read the book and come together and talk about the book.
That's not a book club. That was how it used to be done.
Considered a book club when you do, but you never see those people again necessarily.
Well, you should if it was ongoing.
It's a sense of community. Same folk get together over and over again.
That's a book club to you.
That's a book club to me.
Well, I don't understand the one and done though. I don't understand that.
Well, it was just an event, I guess. Just something to do, I suppose. I don't know. But tonight we're gonna have something interesting for the people. And it's part of our tips and tools series. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about what Ruth is going to guide us into tonight. We always have something good when Ruth is doing the tips and the tools. Always good. Let's see. We can review. We got you coming up first, Victoria, and then we have Ruth, and then we have me, and then we're going to go back to Ruth, and Ruth is going to get us going. She's going to get us going tonight, and that's
speaking of getting going. It's that time to roll open.
Well, all righty then. Thank you so much, Alan. Here we go.
All right, here we go, everybody.
Good evening, and welcome to Authors Up, your favorite place to be on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. I know it's our favorite place to be on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. And I am here with two wonderful women, just brilliant women. They're excellent authors, and they're
she laid it though.
I know, right?
And all that. Send the checks, baby. Send the checks.
She laid it on thick. What can we do for you?
How are you doing this evening, Ruth? You good?
I am very well. How are you?
I am good also. And Queen Victoria, how are you tonight?
I am fine. Looking at you guys' beautiful smiles when we came on, I was like, oh, look at my friends. They're my friends again tonight. Yeah. I am wonderful. I hope you are.
Go ahead. Well, we have a great show planned tonight, and sometimes, we have wonderful guests that come on, and sometimes it's just us. And sometimes I just like it when it is just us, and we're kind of free to talk about some things that we think are important to our listeners. and those who view our program based on different conversations and comments and things that we have had going on. So tonight is going to be that kind of night. But we're going to start with our week in review, which is always interesting because we always have something going on, even on those Sunday nights when we come in and say, well, nothing really happened. You discover.
I think you do. I think you do have something you can share, Victoria.
Something is always going on. So we're going to start with you, Victoria. What?
What's start with me?
What do you have to share from your weekend review? Before you get started, let me welcome Miss Linda Cooks. Linda is on the line tonight. Linda, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. And if you can, just share the broadcast with some of your good buddies, and hopefully they'll be able to join in with us as well. So go ahead, Miss Victoria.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Linda, and anybody else who joins in and on podcast land. We're so glad to have you here on Authors Up. Let's see. Last week, not so drastic or earth-shattering in the week. Just went to work. Wasn't feeling so great. The middle part of the week, started not to feel so great again. But got my hair redid on Friday.
Pretty.
So it hurts. So I'm not gonna touch it too much. As nobody told me crochet hurt as much as it does.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't tell me that part. The first couple of days are a little rough, but it's okay. It's all right. What price beauty, they say.
Yeah, that's right.
Today was a really nice afternoon. I was feeling kind of blah, but I got up and we had what would you call the event, Ruth? Writing.
It was a get together, definitely. I think it was just like a writers group.
Yeah, we just did some writing prompts. We got together, ended up being 4 ladies, and we went to Leslie's house. She's from the Bethel Synagogue, and it was really, really nice. It was just so interesting. They gave some writing prompts, like some situations, and then you write about it, and then we shared about it. So it was just the 4 of us just writing and sharing, and it was just so beautiful to hear the other people's thoughts and my own thoughts, to just like, where'd that come from, but it was really a nice afternoon of just sitting around. We sat outside under the magnolia tree with the blossoms and the birdies, and but I told Ruth, don't tell nobody I was outside, because
No, of course not.
I don't do outside. But we was outside.
She sat outside.
It was nice with some hibiscus tea, and it was.
I was going to ask you if you had a magnolia tree, you had to have some type of iced tea.
Yep.
And we did.
And it was good.
And it was really good. It actually settled my stomach, to be honest, But it was really, really nice sharing. And it was just, I was just very happy to be in the number, to be among people from different backgrounds, but we all had some common threads. And it was really nice to have that sense of community and have that shared experience with our writing. And it was just really, really nice. I'm gonna really treasure that this afternoon for a very long time. I tell you, my cheeks were hurting by the time I left. I'm smiling so much. It was just beautiful. So I'm just happy right now. It's really nice.
Well, good. Yep. Very good. Do you think that's something that we could do on Authors Up if we framed it right?
Yes.
Do something with writing prompts.
Absolutely.
A lot of us familiar with doing that, so we can maybe craft something like that for the.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that would be fun to do.
Let me tell you one. I'm just going to tell you one. We did about 4, I think, but let me tell you just one. The very first one was, if you had to put something on a fortune cookie for millions of people to read, what would you put on your cookie and why? Just think about it for a moment.
I already know.
See?
In my fortune cookie.
Okay, and then we had one in the group who was like, I don't even know why I came because I don't think I have anything to write. Beautiful, beautiful. It was just amazing. It was just an amazing experience. So I definitely think we could do something like that and encourage our viewers to write, especially if we let them know in advance what we're going to be doing and have your pen and paper ready. Yes, we definitely can do it.
I think that's something we ought to. We were just looking at the calendar at where we've got openings and what we've got going on for the second half of the year. So I think that's definitely something that we need to put down and something that we can work on and frame. And
I think so too.
We can do more than one in the next
Absolutely.
6 months. So
yes.
Yeah, let's work on that. I think that'd be good.
It was really nice.
Okay.
We missed you, of course.
Hmm?
We missed you, of course.
Oh, yes. I
But it was
miss
really nice.
being there.
It was really
But napping is good.
Yes, it is. It always is.
Yep, it is. So that was my week, and I think that has framed me, of course, of being here as well. Framed me to have a positive outlook on this week coming up. I'm good, in a good headspace.
All right. That's great. That's great. What about you, Ruth? Did it have the same effect on you? I know you enjoyed the afternoon, but what is with that and whatever else is going on in your week? Share.
Well, of course, of course. I think it was a great end to the week. Because to me, I've been wanting to do a writers group for a very long time now. Hadn't really researched into it, so while I say I wanted to do it for a long time, I wasn't that serious about it. But having sat there, having participated, I'm like, oh, it's not as hard as we make it out to be. Sometimes it's just, let's sit down. Food always brings people. And just write. All you
Great
need
snacks.
is paper. Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely and you don't have to be an author, you don't have to be published, you just write. Everybody can write. And that's the thing. I do some training at work regarding writing. And one of the things that I start with is, you may not be a published author, but everyone's a writer. You write an email, you're a writer. If you do a journal, you're a writer. Everyone is a writer to whatever degree. So I think this is something that everyone could participate in. It's fun. And, again, it's that sense of community. So if you get the opportunity, I would most definitely say, yeah, take a shot at it. And, depending on the group, you don't always have to share. If you honestly, some people are embarrassed about sharing what they write, but you quickly discover that, you know what, you're all in the same group. We're all there together. No one's writing a masterpiece. Again, I say it all the time. The first draft of anything is garbage. So we all sat there and wrote garbage together. So,
But it wasn't garbage.
but no, it wasn't. And that's the
wasn't.
thing.
Some
The
of it was
content
quite
isn't.
profound and
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. So it's not, and when I say garbage, it's
I
okay.
know what you
Sometimes
mean.
the
I know.
rules of grammar are ignored, punctuation, oh, this sentence should be. But the truth is, no one's sitting there writing a masterpiece. It's
Right.
just your thoughts
Right.
being put down on paper.
Well,
So,
I think the writing prompt piece is really good
Mhm.
for that, because a lot of times, number one, we don't think that we can write.
right.
And number two, and this is part of what we'll discover and find out tonight is, I know I want to write something, but I don't know
hmm
what it is
That's
that
right.
I want to write.
Right.
Yep.
So that, the Authors Up writing group sounds like a possibility. I'm
That sounds like a
thinking,
big possibility.
I'm
So,
thinking, we could do it via Zoom,
Yeah. Yes. Very possible. Yes.
everybody
and
bring their own snacks, but
Okay.
snacks are important.
food was important.
Very important. It's part of it.
I think that
Yeah.
would work because we have listeners. Our listeners are everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not just local. So
Mhm.
that would give everybody who wants to participate an opportunity to
Yes.
participate.
Yes.
I love
So
it.
I think writing prompts would put us in the right vein and the right, mode or mood to
Mhm.
make something happen. I,
Absolutely.
I like that idea. I
It was
think
Yep.
really nice.
that idea.
Yep.
Yeah, very
I-
good, very good.
Mhm.
So what
Well,
about you? How was your week?
my week was fine. You know what I told you I'd be doing from now
Yeah, we know what she's gonna be talking about.
next Saturday.
And we got 1 week left. Yeah.
Next Sunday.
Got my outfit.
Yeah, that's all anybody's interested in. I've had several people this week say, now what are we
Got my
supposed to wear?
outfit.
What are we supposed to wear?
Because
Oh, I ain't
it's
even
an
thought about
event.
that. I guess I should.
Because it's an event that we get to dress up and go to.
You get
You
to. You get
assume people like to get dressed up.
I do. So that's why I'm talking about mine.
Yeah, somebody asked me, they said, what is casual chic? I said, just think no jeans. Just think
Oh, okay. Well, I don't wear.
I
jeans,
actually
so
had to
I'm
look it
good.
up, but I got it down.
that's kind of it, because I want to do, unfortunately, I lost my videographer at the last moment.
Oh.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to do some videos. The iPhone takes wonderful pictures and videos.
My Android does too.
So okay. So
I made a face, by the way, for all the people.
I know that,
watching.
but that's all right.
so I'll still be able to do that because I really want to. We just got some interesting things going on that Saturday. So putting the finishing touches on that and video we want to do, and getting things together that we want to share with people, and you're just going to eat from 5 to 7:30. I love it.
That's what we do best.
Food's gonna keep coming. So,
I love that part.
good-
I got a
good
map. I got to
catering.
do my map quest so I know where I'm going.
And food is gonna keep coming. Everybody's excited. I am excited. I'm glad that this is happening. Got a couple of surprises, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to
Yeah,
be a
so
good
true.
time, and I am appreciative of everybody who has gotten their ticket on time. We are actually probably 4 seats away from the capacity that I
Oh wow,
anticipated.
good.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that, and I just want it to be fun. I want it to be fun, but he gave me those words, make it count, for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are going to be some things that are going to be happening where people are going to be able to make it count. They're going to be glad that they came. So
Oh,
that will be what I wanted to achieve. I think that's why he gave me the title, and I think that's why he set it up the way that he has. You always look at things like this and say, no matter what, the people who are supposed to be there will be there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you kind of look back at the names on the list, and I think, wow, I'm really hoping, because I can on the list see connections and see where people can make it count, where they can meet some folks that may be instrumental in helping them do what it is they want to do.
that's good.
Yeah.
And I think, other than everybody trying to figure out what they want to wear, I think it's gonna be a really good time. And I think I need to figure that out myself, because I don't know. For somebody who's been planning this since January, you would think
You would think.
I would know. But that's okay, because I will by next Saturday, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
We're good. But yeah, it's been fun planning. It's just been a fun process, because it's always interesting when you are stepping out to do what you believe you heard him tell you to do,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you don't have all the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
but you know he does.
Amen.
You know
Amen.
he does. So feels good, feels solid. So next week I will be able to tell you, and if it's good news, Victoria and Ruth will be able to tell you also that they had an absolutely amazing time.
We're gonna say that anyway, because we're gonna be together.
I'm writing their speeches now, so so they will be on point next week, and they'll know exactly what to say. But yeah, that is where I am. And I do want to say this as we get started on our program tonight, because we've been talking about so you want to write a book. I don't know whether we said a book or a story, but so you want to write something. And one of the first things that we talked about, and I don't want to steal Ruth's thunder from this, but I want to put it here because it just happened.
Yep.
One of the first things that we had in our list, or on our list of tips and tools, was, what do you want to write about? And today I got a phone call from my goddaughter's mother. You all know that I have twin goddaughters, and I call them my squeeze toys. They are 8 years old.
Oh.
And she sent me a note that said, Genesis and Madison, we call her Maddie, Genesis and Maddie want to write a book. And I thought, are you kidding me? So when I was talking with Ruth, I said, Ruth, they're right there. They need to answer that first question, which is, what do you want to write about?
Yep.
What story is it that you want to tell? What's on your mind? So they are at that age, very into, of course, social media, in YouTubes, and wanting to do their own YouTube. But you just can't set them free. They need boundaries and borders and all manner of other things before that happens. But the fact that they even have it in their thought process,
Right.
to want to write something, and I don't know, Ruth, writing prompts may be a good place for them to start that journey.
Oh yeah.
Them some writing prompts and kind of see what they do with it. So I'm interested. I did send her a note back and say, what do they want to write about? So it'll be interested to see how they respond.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what they want to write too.
Yeah.
And I was saying that is just wonderful, because at 8, I didn't think I could, be an author. So that's just awesome. I think that they even have it in their heads that they want to do it. It's wonderful.
It's the age that we're in, because they were living with me when I first started 8 at 8. And they would come down and ask me, Graham, they call me Graham. Graham, do you have scribes? And I thought, do I have scribes? And they were trying to say subscribers. Because they're into that YouTube, that mentality.
You have scribes.
I thought, what are they talking about? But she was so serious. She said, Grammy, do you have scribes? And I thought, well, maybe I need to get some. I don't know what they are.
You have scribes.
So it'll be an interesting process, and I'll keep you up to date on.
Oh, absolutely.
Where that stands. So, Ms. Ruth, what do we have to do if we want to write a book? What are some tips for us tonight?
All right. Well, first of all, you're going to have some decisions you got to make. And like Madison and Genesis, you're going to have to decide, what do you want to write about? Now, like you said, that can come from different areas. Most people know that what the story they want to tell. More often than not, what you're going to find, a lot of people want to tell their story, and it's not that, what, you did some incredible feat, or maybe you did. Sometimes you've been through something and you want to share that with the world because you want to inspire somebody, or you just like fiction and you have these stories bubbling up in you, and maybe you're a hopeless romantic and you just love everything happily ever after, whatever it is, and it's just, certain people can, I always tell, you can write from one genre to the next, and we're going to talk about genres in a minute. Some people are natural storytellers. They love fiction. That's all they want to write. Some people just want to share their story. They're more inspirational. They're more, okay, this happened, or let me tell you a true story. And some people can do both. I shared Isaac Asimov wrote a story in every genre that was published. So if he can do that, that tells me that I can do that if I choose to do that. But again, you know, chances are if you say, I want to write a book, you already know what you want to write.
What you want to write?
Yeah. So it's just, I would say, go with your first thought. Now, if you're just like, well, I just want to write a book, I don't know what to write about, I don't know where to start. Writing prompts, they do make them for children, for teens, for adults. They make them in every category you can find. Again, the internet, for all its faults, it also has a lot of information out there. You can Google writing prompts for teens or for kids. I think this is a great tool for teachers, writing prompts. Um, so it's just, what are you passionate about? What is that story that's burning in you? And if your thought is just, I just want to write a book, what interests you? Again, we go back to, what do you read? If you're, most big authors, especially Stephen King, will tell you, if you're not a reader, you're not a writer. So
Mm.
I think there's a lot of validity to that. I don't want to leave anybody out, but chances are you read a lot. What do you read? What you gravitate towards are probably the stories that um, you would be able to tell. So, admittedly, I've read a lot of romance novels. So, what do I write? A lot of romance stories. So, it just, it kind of falls into line because that's where your interest is. Also think about maybe the movies that you watch. That may be an indicator of the type of stories that you like, and maybe something that you will um, gravitate towards. So, once you figure out what you want to write about, that's you got more questions and more decisions you need to make. So, there's a lot of most people, there are authors out there. You guys have heard me say, your first step is usually to create an outline, and I think we may get to that. Some people do honestly write from the seat of their pants. Some people just sit down with a notebook or a pen or a computer and they just start writing. I think those are unicorns. They just magical creatures that may not exist in real life.
I'm a unicorn. I never.
Okay.
You are. You are. You're
Okay.
beautiful.
So, but I think most people are not like that.
Right.
So we are in the presence of magic and
Greatness.
fantasy
We
and
are in the
just
presence of greatness.
awesomeness.
Magical fantasy person.
Yes, it's awesome, but most people are not like that. So it's best, and again, you want to write a book. I have a little bit of OCD, so for me, I have to plan stuff out. And I feel that, when you draw it back from the extremes, it's good to plan stuff out. You don't go on a trip and be like, "Oh, I'm just going to show up at the airport."
Right.
No, you already have your ticket, you know your destination, you know how many days you have a hotel, and aside from my cousin who just showed up to um she decides she wanted to go to Europe, booked for 2 weeks, booked the hotel for 2 days, and then she was going to wing the rest of it. So,
Ooh,
don't do that.
that's scary. That is scary to me.
Was she sleeping on a park bench for 2 weeks?
Wow.
No. No, that's another story. We'll get to that.
Okay.
She'll tell her to write a book
Did you at
about
least
that.
have a passport?
She had a passport.
That is a story.
So, yes, you don't show up at the airport and just hope that the trip is going to be great. So, you plan it out. All right. So, first step, first point, decide what you're going to write.
Okay.
Second point, now we're going to get started. Um, I said we were going to talk about genres. Let's
Mhm.
talk about what that is. And briefly, it is just the category your story falls into. So, um, and who your audience is. So those two play a part in how you write your story. So if so my stories are directed towards adults
Mm-hmm.
plus 18 um, because of the content. You may decide, you know what? Well, I want to write my story for teenage girls.
Mm-hmm.
So that already changes the language and it changes it, the genre or the category to young adult.
Okay.
Um, because
Gotcha.
again, your audience. So and this is very important because most people, okay, you know, a publisher or an agent will say, well, who's your book? Who will read your book? You can't say, oh, it's everybody, because
Mm-hmm.
no. My husband right now, I will tell you that he will not read romance books.
Right.
So it's not for everybody. In the same way that you guys would probably not read uh,
Sports Illustrated.
adventure yeah, well, there you go. Sports Illustrated. You're
Like
not
a
going to read something that you're just not interested in. So you
right.
have to define the category and who your audience is, and this will determine what your genre is. And this is again important because you're not writing for everybody, because not
Right.
everybody's going to read your book. But
True.
if you target it towards your audience, your book will have greater success. So,
Okay.
any questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Um,
So, now we get to the meat of it, the who, what, where, when, and the how. No, maybe.
Maybe a how,
Well,
yeah.
we'll see the how, but definitely who, the what, the where, the when, and all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
what's your story about? Who's in the story? What's your setting? Where is it set? And when is it set? So, I
Mm-hmm.
did this
Mm-hmm.
writing exercise a few years ago. I had watched this movie. I don't remember what it was called. But it was interesting because the two characters at the end, they ended up riding off into the sunset, literally, because it was a cowboy movie. And I thought, well, what happens afterward? So my
Right.
mind got started and I thought, okay, I wrote this whole like outline of what happens in after the story, right? But then I was like, well, maybe I want to set it in modern times. So I kind of switched it up and I thought I'll just keep the story the same. But what I discovered was the story actually changed because of the setting
Got
and the
you.
time.
In the time, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how they would have reacted back in 1884 was different how they would have reacted in 2023.
Right.
So all of these things are important to note because your characters will act a certain way. If it's historical, there's a lot of what's it called? You guys ever watch Bridgerton on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix?
I love it.
yes.
Okay.
Love it.
There
Yes.
are rules when it comes to those certain period pieces.
Right.
You know,
Makes a
there
lot of
are
sense, Ruth.
yeah, so you have to consider, especially if you're writing fiction, think about your characters, how they would have acted. If you have a woman characters based at, 1886 or something like that, she's not going to act in the same way that she would 2023.
Right.
There were certain liberties that she has now that maybe she didn't have then. There are certain words. Think about the words that they would use. She's not going to go off and talking about okay and certain things that we take as that's in our vernacular.
Right.
Think about how is that something that they would have said back then. you
Right.
know I've ventured into fan fiction. That's again taking something that someone's already written and just adding my own stories to it. And one thing I've discovered is this one particular book that I was writing a fan fiction for, other people have written fan fictions for. So I'm looking at what they've written. One person had swear words in it, which is not the worst, but one of them was, taking the Lord's name in vain. And I'm like, does the Lord even exist in this uniform, in this universe? So how can they use those words? So you have to think about those things as you write. It's those little details that will make your story.
Right. It's not going to be believable.
Mm-mm. It loses some credibility if you're just that comfortable with your words and not thinking about, okay, is this the proper setting?
Right.
Would the character say this? Is this the proper time? Is this how they spoke back then? Andrea?
Did, tell me a little bit more about fan fiction, because that's not a term that I've really heard
Sure,
before.
sure. So fan fiction are usually short stories to novellas. So anywhere between several hundred words to up to about 20,000. And basically it's just writing. It would be like, we'll say Harry Potter or maybe Gone with the Wind. You
Mm.
take those characters. Obviously, you did not create those characters, but you take what was written in those books and then you create
A
extra
story.
stories or alternate stories, um, using those characters and maybe the settings or anything about that story. So basically, you're writing fiction, but you're writing it as a fan of that story.
Okay. Got you. Got you.
Okay. Does it always have to be a very, like a war and peace novel? Does it
Mm-mm.
always have to be something that's very long?
No, no,
Okay.
not at all. It can be anything that you are interested in. If it just if it holds your attention and your imagination, then yeah, you can write a fan fiction piece about um
Like
any book
anything, like
that
we can pick out whatever your favorite movie is,
yeah,
and then write another ending to it.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah, write another ending or like the one piece that I did was
Continue the story.
yes, it continued the story. I have read some others where people are just like, well, this character didn't get as much, uh so they kind of
Attention.
delved into the background of that character and
Ah,
utilizing the scenes that were already in the book that were told from the main character's point. They
got
now
you.
told those scenes from the side character.
Got you.
So,
so in the train, which
mhm,
we're going to do by the end of the year this year,
yes,
in the train, our main character talks about um, the parallel between the friends that she has as an
mhm,
adult and her friend circle when she was a child.
Hmm.
So I could uh, go into those childhood friends and
yes,
those childhood relationships and
yes.
create another whole story from that.
Yes. So because they're your characters,
Uh-huh.
they're just your stories. But that would be an excellent way of just broadening that story. That's where you find like sequels and prequels. Um, Now,
Got
if Victoria was like, well, I really like the story and I think I would like to write a fan fiction piece
I'd
because
be a
she's the
fan because I'm
fan.
a fan of your work.
Yes.
got you.
So she would be the one writing fan fiction. You would just be, yours would be considered canon because you're the author. You know how the story,
And it would be considered what? Canon?
canon,
Canon.
Canon.
Yeah,
Yes.
can Yeah.
Okay.
See,
Yes.
you
And
learning
honestly,
something tonight, boy.
and I'll tell you what, honestly, fan fiction is a great practice tool.
Yeah.
If there are books that you particularly like, stories that you like, this gives you the ability to practice your writing, to practice development. Because I know when
Hmm.
I wrote my pieces, kept going back to the book. Okay, is this how they would act? Is this how they would, is this how they were written? Because to me, I love accuracy. So OCD. Um, so to me, it had to fit,
Right.
and I have to give prompts. I know we talked about Shiro's a few weeks ago, and I talked about my art teacher. I had to talk about my senior year English teacher. And she had
Mm.
one assignment that has stuck with me since in I give my age away for about 25 years. But she talked about it was expository writing. And she was like, I want you to, and at the time we were reading Hamlet. And
Mm.
she said, pick one of the lesser characters and you have to expound on them. Give me um, what you think they would have said and done, and then show me where it is in the story. And I picked two of the smaller characters. They only had 6 lines in the whole play, but I
Wow.
was able to write this whole thing about their motivation and how they actually ended up, losing their lives in the play, when even in the play they weren't shown all that. So
Mhm.
it's that exercise has stuck with me for about 25 years, and I've been able to utilize it. And I think that it's again a great tool, especially when you're writing fan fiction,
Hmm.
um, which again, I don't understand this one, but this is what I've heard. Do you guys remember the Twilight series by Stephanie Myers, the
Hmm.
vampires and all of that?
Yes, yes, yes,
Now
yes.
you remember 50 Shades of Grey
Yeah,
by E.L. James?
yeah.
50 Shades of Grey began as fan fiction of Twilight stories.
Really? For
Really,
real?
for real.
I didn't know
I
that.
don't get the correlation, but
I
I
that's
don't.
how it
I'm trying to
started.
figure out what part, but okay.
I
wow.
will say that's what I read somewhere. If I'm wrong, forgive me, but that is what I've read. And again, you can make it your own story. And if you don't know, if you say, I want to write fiction, this is a category, I don't know what to write, this could be a place to begin, you know? And again, even with Madison and
Genesis.
Genesis, thank you, I'm terrible with names. Um, you could say, okay, well, what's your favorite cartoon? What is your favorite storybook? Tell me about, how they grew up. Tell me about, and here's another interesting one. So I love films. I love adventure films. The Mummy was one of my favorite ones. In the second one, they introduced The Rock as the Scorpion
Right,
King.
right, right,
So then they decided, and this was when he was The Rock and not Dwayne Johnson, they
right.
decided to give him his own film.
They
And
did.
then they decided, okay, this is a cash cow, so we're going to make another film. And see, he was like, no, I don't want to do that. So that they created, so his movie was the prequel to the film, The Mummy.
Right.
So then they made a sequel to the prequel, and then they decided that they were going to do a prequel to the prequel to the prequel. So I say all that just to say
They did.
there
They
are
did.
possibility there are so many possibilities out there for stories. You could get your story just going outside and observing people, but oftentimes it's what we watch, it's what we read, it's what is all around us. So if there's a story you want to tell, just think of it that way. Think about what's around you. Decide who your audience is and what you want to write so that you can pick your genre, and then think about how you want to tell it, the who, what, when, where, and how. And honestly, at that point, you just got to pick your tool. Um,
Go for it.
we got notebooks. Some people are still old school. You can get a pen and paper. Still works. I write on my laptop. Look, 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 look. Here's the other thing. E.L. James, when she wrote 50 Shades of Grey, she was sitting there doing it on her phone while she was taking her kids to soccer, going to the grocery store,
What
whatever she needed to. If ideas struck, and this was back when, phones weren't advanced as they are now. So you have different tools. Once you figure out what your best tool is, go ahead and get started.
All right.
Yep.
I got to I've got to say this. When I was doing theater, one of the things that we did um, was to develop the character, whatever
Hmm.
that character was, to give that character life.
Yep.
In terms of how did they grow up? Are they married? Are they single? What did they experience in their life? What did they like? What didn't they like? What triggered them? What caused them to do certain things as they were growing up? And one of the things that it helped us to do when we were doing live theater was that if anybody dropped a line or if something happened and you know we were off in our delivery of what we were doing, you could always pull from what you knew about that character,
Mm-hmm.
what you had developed in your head, so that you knew how that character would respond in that situation. I'd never thought about it in terms of being a writing tool
Mm-hmm.
and being a part of what will often end up being the spin-off series
Yeah.
from the different different sitcoms
Mm-hmm.
and different things that we watch all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good thing to know. I've learned 4 things tonight.
Glad.
Canon, well, 5 actually. Canon, prequel, sequel, fan fiction, and the fact that I am a unicorn.
Yes, you are.
Yes, yes, yes.
We are in
Yay
the presence
me!
of greatness.
Yay me! Now, I want to ask one more thing, and I
Sure.
know we're actually right at our end time, but I do want to ask
Uh-huh.
this thing because it comes up all the time. And it is that issue of writing versus editing.
Mm-hmm.
And we find ourselves doing it all the time, especially when people are writing their memoir, their autobiography, their story. And they tend to want to keep going back to make sure that they have told it correctly. I write this chapter and then I'll go back and I forgot this, or I forgot that. And it just slows the process down. But when you are writing something that is not fiction and something that is a part of who you are or who you have become, or that becoming journey, how do you resist the urge to go back? Because we don't really see it, and I say we because the unicorn have trouble in those areas. But there's always, and you're not thinking of it in terms of editing, and you're not necessarily thinking of it in terms of wanting to be perfect. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I want to make sure that the story is lining up. That's at least how you're saying it. Do I have my dates in order? Is that really when I did what I said I did, or those kinds of things? How do you develop, or how do you resist the urge to go back and develop that urge to say, I'm going to leave this alone until the end, let me go on to the next phase or stage of whatever it is that I'm writing? Usually it doesn't happen that same way in fiction, but I think it happens more when you are writing your own story. And welcome to David Mitchell. Thank you for being with us tonight. Glad that you got in on part of this discussion, and hope you will share it with others. But yeah, how do you fight that urge?
So actually, yes, it does happen with fiction because I do get that all the time.
Okay.
2, practice is how it happens or doesn't happen. But here's the thing. So there is a difference. If you end up rewriting a certain section, so like, again, we talked about outlining, this is the best way. If you can outline, give yourself a roadmap, this is how I want the story to flow. Now, say you've already written up to page 12 and something happened on page 11. You've written up to page 12. All right. You keep going and decide on page 13 that this is not how the story is supposed to go. That, maybe something changed. Well, now you have to go back to page 11 because that's where the story veered in that direction, but now it's got to veer in another direction. So, in that respect, I would say that going back will help you because it will give you a better sense.
Back
Again,
on track.
yes,
Okay.
back on track. Think about it as
Right.
in the sequel to Back to the Future, where they ended up going back to the future and then back to the past and then ended up creating another timeline. So confusing, watch the movie. But what happens is now they have to go back before the change happens so they can get back on track. So in that respect, yes, you can go back. And it's the same way with telling your story. Now, if you're going back and reading it and going, oh, I should have put a comma there. Oh, no, it's sound better if I write it like this.
That's
Stop
different.
it. Slap your hand.
Okay.
Stop doing that. If you are going back to make sure that your content is correct, by all means, go back.
Okay.
If you're correcting, you're editing, you don't want to do that because now you're
Gotcha.
wasting time.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but again, that's something I would put sticky notes up on your computer, do whatever you need to do to remind yourself, okay, is this about content or is this about editing? If it's about your content, go back and get it. Sometimes you need to just kind of move ahead and then go back and say, okay, well, I'll get that later. Or no, I need the story to flow. Whatever it is, work with it. Make sure that your content is correct. But if your periods are off, if your grammar is off, save that for later.
Gotcha. All righty. Hey, I think you did it. I think that for all of those out there who have had that burning question,
Yeah.
I want to write a story, but I don't know where to start. I want to tell my story, but I don't know how to begin. We have given you, not we, but Ms. Ruth has provided some wonderful tools and tips to dust off that dream and take that idea and start making it a reality.
Mhm.
And I tell you what, to my two little goddaughters, to Madison and to Genesis, I see their mom just popped on. I want them to know that if they want to write a story, they can write a story. And that we're here to help them along the way, help them to get started, and help them to continue. Because
Yes.
sometimes getting started is not the hard part. Finishing becomes the hard part. So we're gonna get them started the right way. And we have had young authors before, the Matswaka children who wrote a book about King COVID. So we have not only had adult authors that write for children, but we have had children that have written very, very good good books. And who knows, Genesis and Madison, you could be the next authors that come up on Authors Up. So we're cheering for you.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see what we can do to help you get that journey started. So that's it for us for tonight. Does anybody have any closing comments? Victoria, you can't say get the book. You can say write the book.
Write the book.
Write the book.
There you go. Write the book.
Get to writing.
And Ruth, do you have any closing comments for tonight for our listeners?
I just want to, absolutely. I want to thank all our listeners wherever they are, whether they listen to our podcast, watch our YouTube, or catch us live, or even record it on Saturday evening. So thank you. We wouldn't be here without you. If you would like to find out more about being a guest on our show, you can email us at authorsup@gmail.com.
That's it, authorsup@gmail.com. And that is it for us for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be right back here next week. I believe that we will. Yes, that's the plan.
That's the plan.
To be back here next week. And when we come back, guess what? I'll be able to tell you all about June 10th.
Come on now. It'll be June 11th.
And all will be well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Victoria. We love being together.
Yes.
And you guys have an absolutely amazing week. And we will be right back here next Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for another edition of Authors Up. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, Bronze Girls.
Night, night.
Night.